Right. Hello, everyone. Once again, we are gathered here for episode 7 of Karthritis. No name will be given for the episode at this point, as we've changed that. Anyway, this is the first show since, is it 3 weeks now?
It's been a while.
Yeah, there's been a vacuum in my life at least. Although I've had time to re-listen to all the episodes on various flights and super long car drives through Norway. Yeah, that was fun. So here's another one. We have 2 guests this time, which will introduce themselves in due time. So first we're going to do the whole introduction thing, and this time I'm going to ask, what is the one game you wish you could speedrun well? I'll go first. My name is Marius Sargoth, and I thought I had this question all figured out, but the more I think about it, the harder it is. Yeah, so I was going to go with Super Metroid from the start, and that game is kind of dead now and overran, but I guess I'm just going to stick with that answer and regret it immediately when the next guy in line answers much better. But yeah, that's me.
Right, okay then. Yeah, well, okay, I'll go then. Hi, I'm Clark, aka Zarkov. And that's a good question. It's a very good question. For me, it would have to be the Lost Levels on Mario. So what would that be known as? Super Mario Brothers, the Lost Levels. Let's call it that. Because I used to play that loads with my friend James. And we could do individual levels really, really well. But we never got good enough to string it all together and do the whole thing. So I wish I was just good enough and not too old that my hands hurt.
Did you play it on the NES or the SNES?
The SNES. It was on the All Stars one.
The All Stars one, yeah.
Yeah. And love that game. Just never good enough to do it all in one. Bounce.
But it's very hard,
yeah,
actually.
I do recall you talking about this like 10 years ago, and yeah, that's a good shout. That's a pretty underplayed Mario game, actually.
Great fun game, but like certainly the hardest Mario game, especially out of the oldest. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm Lafungo, aka Lafungo. My game is Golden Sun, which, if you haven't heard of, is an RPG on the GBA.
Right. Yeah, I have heard briefly, but I never tried it or seen it.
So it is the first RPG I ever played that wasn't Pokemon, and it holds a special place in my heart. And the speedrun for that game is something I've debated learning at several points over the years, and it's pretty interesting for an RPG because it's fully, all the RNG in the game is fully manipulated, so all the fights are scripted out. It's pure execution, and so it would be a mix of both nostalgia and also just execution heavy RPG game.
So when you
I have a question about it actually.
Yeah, sure.
It's called Golden Sun.
Correct.
Is that what Nane calls you as well?
Oh,
come on.
So actually you make that pun, but there's a sci-fi book I read called Golden Sun, with sun being, the sons and daughters. And it's a pretty interesting young adult sci-fi trilogy. Yeah, you can check that out too if you're interested.
I shall, if ever I see it.
I was going to ask one follow-up as well. When you say execution heavy, do you mean menuing and just inputting the... I don't know, is it turn-based?
Yeah, it's turn-based. So it's not execution heavy in the same sense that SMK, for example, is.
But menuing is a real execution thing at highest levels, of course.
Exactly. So like a lot of the time saves in the game are just being able to menu really, really fast.
Right. So
I didn't even know that menuing was a thing. That's pretty interesting.
Basically RPG, but other games have it too. Like Zelda games have it to a very small extent, and RPG games will have it to like a silly high extent.
Of course, yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, I'm Karel, KVD. As of last week, I reconfirmed my Dutch SMK title, Kappa. The game There's one game that I really, really enjoy watching, and I also played quite a bit, and it's F-Zero X. And I remember back in 2007, Steven's watches and me, were plotting to really start learning this game and take down the top times. And I've gotten to the point that I was top 100, and for some tracks I was even top 40. But I could never really get the diagonal dives going as well as the pros. So in F-Zero X, basically you can fly off the track on a lot of tracks, and then if you dive in a certain angle and tap really fast with the R button, you can pick up insane speeds, and it looks really, really cool. However, I've never been able to get to the level of, for example, my former roommate Wouter Janssen, let alone Daniel Zia, who was probably one of the best gamers I've ever seen. I'm not saying even probably, it's definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing him streaming many years ago when you did one of your NLG things, and it was a great game to watch.
It was 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
I actually saw him streaming like a month ago.
Yeah, and he got like a bunch of world records in a single session.
Yeah,
It's completely batshit crazy. But also, it's typical the type of game that I like, where the skill is really transparent. It's maybe even looks better than it is, though it isn't. I know it isn't, but still. Yeah.
I was really thinking you were gonna pick Donkey Kong Country 2, Carol, but yeah, interesting.
I don't enjoy that speedrun as much,
that's fair,
or even watching it. Like F-Zero X is just a roller coaster ride if you watch it. You're like on the edge of your seat. If Daniel plays Firefield, my jaw just hits the floor.
Yeah.
And with Donkey Kong 2, I just enjoy the game itself more, but not the speedrun per se.
All right then. I'm Dan_H. And I actually have two that I would like to mention. And one of the games is one that I actually did speedrun for quite a while. Mega Man 4. I probably played that game 3 or 4 times a week over the course of 2 or 3 months. And I got my speedrun time down to about 41 minutes, which isn't really that good. Sub 40 is typically kind of the nice little barrier for that game. And the world record is somewhere around 37:15 or so. But the reason why I mentioned that game is there's like no downtime. It's so execution heavy and not like menuing or RPG style. It's you got to be sliding constantly and real fast mashing Mega Man style. You see Mega Man 2 and 3 and 4 players just go nuts on that B button, and I really can't do that. But that is a really hard, a really unforgiving game for the NES, and it's one that I kind of want to get back to, but I just don't see myself being able to, bring myself to the level where I would hope to get. The other one is Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Word.
Also very execution heavy. There's very little downtime relative to probably my main speed game, which is Zelda 2. Where in Zelda 2, you go into a town and you just hold left the whole time, go get a spell, and then you hold left some more until you get out of the town. And there's literally, over the course of an 80-minute run, there's 10 minutes of you just holding left and going to get a spell or something like that. And Link to the Past doesn't have that. It has maybe about 2 minutes of mashing buttons to get through text after you pick up the crystals, but there's so much little tech here and there involved in the proper dashing and then executing the spin speed or hook dashing and tree pulls and all that stuff. It's just crazy how much goes into that game over the course of, I think the world record is down to around 83, the 10 or something like that by Zelna, and they've actually discovered more tech now that's going to save about 10 seconds or so. So once Zelna and the top runners of that game get everything down and get good RNG on that stupid Aghanim fight, finally, it's going to get under the 123 mark. So that's one that I've that's a speedrun that I've just been enthralled with, and I love watching it. And it's a pretty active community, especially with the randomizer out there. But that's not quite as interesting to me.
Right.
Good shout.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts there. The randomizer, I think that's great for the runners who are tired of running the same shit over and over. But as for my viewing pleasure, it's not quite there. Maybe that's just me, but I watched a lot of Link to the Past back in the day. I was the world's largest Crystal fan, which you know how that ended.
Not pretty.
Not pretty. No. And 123.10 is like still behind the time Crystal got, I believe.
No, I don't think so.
No?
No.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think when I last checked the rankings and Crystal was still there, Xelna had already beaten her.
Oh, okay, so there were no back roll times or anything.
Well, the times were back rolled, but they were no longer world records when they were back rolled.
Okay.
That's what
yeah,
I believe.
yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. Yeah, good. Yeah, I like that run a lot. I did run the Master Sword percent for a bit, but you know, I found it more fun to watch, really. And how about Mega Man 4? Does that still have the wall zips and stuff from 2 and 3?
No, it doesn't. Mega Man 2 is kind of the one that's really famous for the zips, where
Yeah.
you use item 1 or item 3 to clip into the ceiling, and then the game just doesn't know what to do with you, so it zips you to the right really fast, and you skip just huge portions of it. I don't think there's really anything like that in Mega Man 3. It's just
Oh, all right.
really, really precise sliding. And then Mega Man 4 is the same way. There is actually one zip in there that you do with the balloon, and you have to use the balloon and then slide and then get hit by an enemy, and you clip through a wall, and it only saves like 6 or 7 seconds. But with the balloon on Mega Man 4, if you try to clip into the ceiling, it just squishes you and kills you instantly.
Fair.
So you don't have any of that. Mega Man 1 has a lot of really crazy zips that get exploited, but I honestly can't explain them, so I'm just gonna end it there.
No, that's okay. I was just wondering what's your time lost in Mega Man 4, since you seem to be almost serious about running it.
My time loss is just that I'm not that good at it, and I don't use the best strategies, and I'm a really bad masher. Like, you see, I don't know how much you know about that game, but on the Dive Man stage, the water stage, there are 2 screens where this mechanical whale comes down, and you use the Bright Man's weapon and freeze it, and then like the best players can take one jump and just mash and kill this thing. Like, they have to shoot it 20, 24 times, something like that. I have to take 3 jumps because I'm just not that quick with my thumb, or if I need to use different technique and mash with my index finger or something like that. I don't know, but I haven't ever been able to do that. So mashing stuff comes into play in several levels. So yeah.
I'm just thinking
I
Patrick
have a-
when I hear that, but okay.
I have a quick question, just regards to like speedrunning in general. Like, from the way you talk, Marius, do you not sort of watch TV? Do you just watch speedruns? Is that your viewing pleasure?
Well, that's a bit black and white, but no, I haven't. I haven't even owned a TV since 2008, I believe.
Oh wow.
I think the last time I had a TV was when Steven visited me in Norway.
That's a long
I
time
mean,
ago.
I mean channels. Of course, I have a TV screen like a monitor, or I have 10, but I don't have any channels, so I never watched much of that.
Okay, yeah. Because I mean, me myself, like, if there's a new world record or something, or you guys say, you know, there's a new DKC record or something, I'll happily watch that. But I don't know. I just can't sit there watching someone do it until they've done it. Once they've done it, I'm happy to sit down and watch it. But I don't know. That's
Yeah,
just me.
but okay. So how do I explain that? So first off, I kind of agree.
Same.
Yeah, watching 100, 200 hours of a streamer play the same stuff, just being frustrated and repetitive, and yeah, that's not really the fun part. And watching it afterwards is good, but the very best part is watching it live. It's like the World Cup or something. You can't watch it you can't watch the rerun 2 weeks later. That doesn't give you the same feeling, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I guess because everyone else is watching it at the same time, right? So you're all in it together.
yeah. It's
Yeah, it's also about the feeling that you're watching the run, and then
Yeah.
you don't know if it will be, and if it will be, it's gonna be awesome, and what time it will be. It's like this extra layer of expectation that may or may not be met.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
I
that's
can
cool.
see
I mean-
why. I can see why watching it live would be such a drag. This is part of the reason why I stopped running Zelda 2, and I have a kind of an utter disdain for the game now. Resetting over and over and over again until you get that 1/8 chance of a P bag in the magic cave.
Right.
I mean, a lot of games are like, you got to get this certain drop or certain thing within the first 2 minutes, otherwise it's a reset. And watching people like in Zelda 1 do the first 3 screens of level 3 over and over and over again, it just takes forever, and it's boring.
I mean, these games aren't made for speedrunning. That's a non-statement, basically. But some of them lend themselves to the speedrun so poorly that they should sort of be avoided. Let's take Zelda 2. But if nobody runs it, then there's a market. Like, oh, I can get an easy world record in a Zelda game. Then I play this, even if it's shit. The first 15 minutes over and over.
That's a fair assessment, I guess. I mean, like, I think it's different, like, in terms of watching you guys play Mario Kart or something, because it's such a quick thing. You know, even if you see it to the end of a race, it's only sort of a minute 30 or something. So you get lots of chances to see a potential world record or something. But yeah, with the longer game, because I started watching that ever since you sort of were talking about Void a few weeks ago, running Donkey Kong.
Oh yeah.
He's actually really cool to watch. Yeah, I don't mind watching him from time to time. He's quite cool. He's an engaging runner, but he's about the only one, I think.
He did actually get the Donkey Kong Country any percent, all levels world record, by the way.
Right.
And now he's playing Donkey Kong 3.
Ugh.
So,
Yeah.
and I can tell you that some SMK streams would also be borderline unwatchable or just
Yes.
downright unwatchable. Like if I streamed Vanilla Lake 2 Lab, which I purposely did not, I was spending hours and hours and hours just breaking those blocks and failing the big island jump over and over, and it would have made for terrible watching. And yeah,
I find it interesting that Clark says, I would watch SMK streams and whatnot, because what I hear from most people is the exact opposite, where they want to see, if they're going to watch someone grind away at a time, they want it to be a full game speedrun, because
right.
There's more variety. It's like, okay, maybe they're resetting the first level for 10 minutes straight, but then eventually, once they get a run going, they're on to different levels, and you get to see different things in the game. Whereas a time trial stream for Mario Kart, I think, is possibly one of the most tedious speedrunning related streams you can watch, because it's the same track over and over and over again. And even if you get a run going, it's going to last at most 2 minutes or 6 if you're playing Mario Kart 64. And it's still the same track. You're just looping around the same level over and over. Even on a successful run.
I completely agree with that sentiment. Even though I'm like much more of a time trialer myself, if I were to choose between watching Beck Ebney do an All Cups run or Matthias Rustenmeier grinding Donkey Kong Jungle Parkway, I know what to choose every time.
Right.
It would be Ebney, no contest.
That said, though, Abney does a lot of resets on Luigi Raceway, just getting the 3 red shells and that stuff.
Very true, but if he gets past that,
yeah, then it's a run, and then you're all like, oh, is this the urn? And then you're entertained as long as that lasts, which could be 5-10 minutes easily most of the time.
Yeah, you also have a lot more time to savor what a potential run, at least.
Yes.
When it's a full game speed run, as opposed to a single track on Mario Kart, where even if it's a successful run, again, it's not going to last 10 minutes.
No, by no means. No.
Having said that, by the way, I do watch a lot of MK64 MR or Matthias Rustenmeier when he is active. Also, again, it's kind of the same thing when he was hunting for 3232. I wanted to be there when he got it.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a unique case.
Didn't get it in the end, but I was there. I would have been there, let's say.
So, can I just ask Lafungo a question? So, do you watch RPG speedruns by any chance?
So, for the most part, no. I have watched a little bit of Golden Sun, specifically because I'm interested in that speedrun.
Yeah.
And I like how I'm interested in the fact that it's an RPG whose speedrun doesn't involve a lot of the drawbacks that many RPG speedruns have,
Right.
namely RNG. And it's a large part nostalgia, but there aren't that many people who speedrun the game anyways. So all in all, I watch maybe, like maximum 10 of these speedruns per year.
Right, okay. So RPGs I find a bit different. They are always long.
Yes.
That's one. But I did spend, I don't know, 50, 100 hours watching Kart 7 play the same enemy over and over for 500 hours. I didn't watch all of it, but I know I watched too much.
I watched more of that than I care to admit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I much like the really tedious streams or something.
But then it's not about the action on screen. It's about Kart 7 sharing the knowledge, and you're sort of understanding what's happening, why it's happening, what's going to happen later. So it's much more of a thought process than an action-packed stream.
Yeah.
Is Kart 7 still streaming, by the way?
No, it's been north of a year.
Very rare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I used to love watching him stream. He does some really interesting stuff.
Oh, crazy stuff. We went over that though.
Yeah, we've been over that. Yeah.
So do we want to get on to the star of the show, double underscore, my man? You're gonna talk about some speedrunning as well?
All right, yeah. So I did a All Cups Super Mario Kart run for Midwest Speedfest, and I know a few of you, at least, got to watch it and got to donate to it. Midwest Speedfest raised somewhere north of $1,800 or $1,900 for an organization called SAVE, and it kind of brings awareness to suicide prevention. And that was like double what I thought they would get. I mean, the Midwest Speedfest Twitch channel only has something like 700 or 800 followers or something like that. So I didn't think that this marathon would get watched hardly at all. But I mean, it was pretty cool to get to hear ScouB donate while I was running, and then people kept on chatting. Oh, that's 10 more push-ups for a Miss Zoom start. So, and actually, I have what I think is a pretty good story to lead up to my actual run. So I actually did 2 runs last year. I did Zelda 2, 100% all keys last year, and then I also did Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance 2, which is kind of my speedrunning baby, which I wish people would play that game because it's awesome, and it's not all that interesting of a speedrun, but it's still a pretty cool game. Anywho, so I submitted again this year, and I did Mega Man 4, which they didn't accept, and obviously they weren't going to look at that one as my main one because I'm ranked like 58th or something on the charts. But then, according to speedrun.com, I really look good at Super Mario Kart All Cups because what am I, 4th or 5th or something like that? So I look good even though I'm not.
Because we have a mod that deletes everyone's times or doesn't accept.
You can't trust that speedrun.com site.
I hear that runs over an hour get rejected.
That runs over 7 hours.
Yeah, shout out to 758, huh?
I think I can stop 8 hours on Mushroom Cup. Hold my beer.
Just barely, though.
So when I submitted, and they accepted my Super Mario Kart run, and they were trying to put the schedule together. They asked, when can you do this? And I go, well, I already made plans for a family trip to my cabin like 3 months ago. Like in June or May, we made these plans with my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law. And so it's like I can leave early Sunday morning and run Sunday afternoon, and that is it. That's all I can do because I'm going to be gone Friday afternoon, all of Saturday, and part of Sunday morning. So they said, okay, well, we'll work around it, and they scheduled me for Sunday afternoon, like literally afternoon. They put me at Sunday 12:02 p.m. and I'm like, wow, I didn't think you would take it that literally. And they go, that was the only time we could get you in because they wanted Earthbound and it was some other RPG. They called it the RPG block that they wanted to get in right after me. So anywho, so go up there with the family, and we left from my cabin at like 8 or something like that, 7:45, and it's a 2-hour and 15-minute drive to get back from there. Put the boat back. I went on the computer to see, because marathons, everyone always overestimates their time to be safe. I'm like, they're going to have bumped me up. And I was going to be starting at 11:40 about my time. So, and I look at the clock, it's going to be 40 minutes to get there. I'm like, and I told my wife, Jessica, I'm like, we got to go right now. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. And we were leaving like an hour before I was supposed to run. 40-minute drive, gotta get my badge for whatever convention is going on, and then I gotta go find the room. And I walk in, and people see me, and they're like, oh, you're Dan? Good, okay, good. We didn't think you were going to make it. And I look at the screen, and it's like a 20-minute estimate, and this guy is 14 minutes into his run. And I'm like, oh my God, we just barely made it.
Fashionably late.
No, I wasn't late. That's the thing. It was perfectly on time.
All right.
Anyway, so going back to the weekend, up at the cabin, I brought my Super Nintendo with so that I could practice. And on Saturday, I went fishing, of course, and I gotta mention that because I love fishing. I'm a little bit obsessed with it. Whale shark of SMK, yay. Anywho, so go fishing. We didn't catch shit. It was terrible. It had stormed the night before, so it was bad. Come back inside. Jessica made this like amazing boozy daiquiri sort of thing with watermelon, and she blended it up. Each glass that you poured probably had about a shot and a half of alcohol in it, and I would add about 2 shots more to that, and I drank like 4 or 5 of those things, so I was pretty messed up and trying to practice Super Mario Kart. So the practice went bad, and my controller, after years and years of abuse, is just bad. I found out that it was like I had to press twice as hard on the right of the D-pad to turn right. So it's like, okay, I actually wound up taking it apart, cleaning it off a little bit, and then putting the controller back together. And I put it back together wrong. Like I put the D-pad, the rubber behind it, I didn't put together quite right. So I couldn't turn or move up and down or anything. I thought I had broke the controller. So I retook it apart, figured out what I did wrong, put it back together, and okay, it's working better again. So that was a brief bit of panic right there. The day before I'm supposed to do a marathon run in this game, I'm messing with the only controller that actually works.
So can we safely conclude that you are no expert at drunken controller surgery?
Oh, good God, no. And so on with the drunkenness and playing, I mean, I was absolutely terrible in my practice. I had just PB'd like 2 days before, which one of you may have seen.
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 34:25 or something like that. I don't know. It was like 2 days before. And I'm playing through all these tracks and I am just shit. It is terrible. At one point, I went up to Jessica. I'm like, I cannot believe I'm going to be doing this run. I'm going to embarrass myself and the entire SMK community because I suck at this game. This is the worst decision I have ever made. I am just ranting, drunken ranting to her how terrible it's going to be. So anyway, I continued drinking the entire day, of course, and I just kind of gave up on Super Mario Kart. I'm like, I'm frustrated. I'm done with it. So go to sleep. I woke up at like 4 in the morning or something like that. And I go down and start it up again. And Mushroom Cup goes brilliantly. Flower Cup, I struggled on a little bit. Star Cup and Special Cup, absolutely beautiful. So I'm like, okay, now that I'm a little bit sober, maybe that's why I was fucking up so much the day before. And then, so go through all the stuff, go home, get to Midwest Speedfest just on time. And as they're setting up for me, I go and practice Mario Circuit 1. And I'm trying to NBT and all that stuff. And with my controller, I just struggle mightily on that. I swear I only get about 40% of the off-road boosts I ever go for. And I'm going through it and like the game just seems slow. I'm not sure what was going on, if I was just that dialed in or something, but I seriously reset the console and go, was I on 100cc there? And no, I was on 150 when I was practicing. Maybe it was the TV. Maybe it was the fact that I was so close to that TV like KVD does all the time and he leans way in, you know?
Yeah.
maybe that's what helps.
It gives you more reaction time.
Yeah, right.
It's an important part of getting silver medals, right?
Oh, stop.
It's more about blocking his opponent's field of vision.
All right. Well.
How's it helped me so far?
So yeah, so the run starts and it's going awesome. And I had decided in my head I'm gonna go for the main NBT on Mario Circuit 1 and then go for the last corner NBT on Donut Plains 1. And then the Koopa Beaches, which kind of naturally lend themselves to boosting, and Choco Island 2, which I hardly ever get that boost through the mud. And those were the only ones that I was going to go for. And I've got like 3 out of 3 perfect boosts on Mario Circuit 1. I'm going to get like a mid 50 or something like that. And the guy running it goes, we have an audio issue. We have to reboot OBS. You have to restart the run. I'm like, oh shit, a reset in a marathon? Are you kidding me? And I was a little bit ticked off because I had started so well. And of course, the very first NBT I tried to do on the reset, I failed it. I got the next 3, but then failed the last one. I wound up like with a 52 or something on Mario Circuit 1. Which
you even blamed the reset during the run.
Yep, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. It's acceptable.
I think you're the first marathon runner ever to blame a reset for a mistake.
But then throughout the entirety of the rest of the run, I mean, I was rock solid for what I am able to do in Super Mario Kart. I had that shelfie on Mario Circuit 2 and I swear I was holding down when I wanted to plant that green shell, but I shot it out and it banked right off the wall right into me. I'm just like, oh God, what am I doing? but everything else, minus the missed zoom starts, was, I mean, I was on fire. Bowser Castle 3 was rough because I crashed immediately, then I concrete drowned, and then the computer started bumping me and I was out of coins and I spun out. But then I got the feather, which recovered it, and actually, because of the feather, I got a time which I normally get itemless, which was like 129 or something, which is not that good, but still, I'll take it. I survived it. So, and everything else throughout the run, I was just great on.
You got the mushroom on DP2 and on DP3, if I remember correctly.
I did not get a mushroom on DP2.
You didn't?
I got it.
Maybe it was in your PR before.
3 for sure. And I actually fired that on lap 4 because I was worried After my practice, it's like when I was figuring out to make it free, I had crashed several of them, like just getting mushrooms on match race and shooting it off a little bit too far to the right, which meant you're hitting the water a little bit too close to the wall and you're not going over it. So I'm like, I got to use this on lap 4 so that if I crash embarrassingly, I can recover and still, win this track. So that was my decision there, and I nailed it perfectly. And everything else just kind of fell into place. One of the neat little things about my run, as I was kind of chatting away, doing the best commentary that I could by myself, the group that was in the room, when I started talking about the time trial site and how Sami set it up in like 98 or 99, and I've been a part of it since like 2005 or 6 or something like that. Like the people in the room were like, holy crap, this is a long established game. And they were kind of murmuring to themselves. I don't know if you could hear that on stream, but Jessica was watching and she was like, yeah, everyone kind of started talking with each other when it's like, he's been a part of this since 06 or 05 or whenever I joined it. I don't even know anymore. But yeah, 12 years now. I am old. So that was a cool little thing.
So you joined the SMK before Lafungo was born?
I'm like 90% sure I joined the site in January of 06 because it was my sophomore year of college.
That confirms that you're older than me then. Right. As in your presence in the SMK community.
We're all old, man. Are you kidding me?
I remind Carol on a daily basis that he's an old fart.
And he
Which I
already
don't
knew.
need reminding of. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so back to the run. I just gotta say that was far above what I expect from the average Grand Prix run. It was great. The commentary was great. I don't think it could have gone much better.
You PR'd actually.
Yeah, I PB'd by like 15 seconds or something like that. That's
Wow,
And another thing that happened in chat, which you may or may not have seen back, was that Carol was kind of hyping up the chance of a Donut Plains 3 mushroom because you had practiced it on stream or something. And that was just
I didn't jinx it.
No, it was just perfect how that came together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did watch through the stream without audio because I can't stand the sound of, well, quite nasally voice, but whatever. So I watched it so that I could see the chat and review my run. So I did see what you guys got to say, and I really appreciate that there are so many people watching.
So can I just ask a question? Because I know Joe is very, very solid on the Zoom start. He gets 2020 like almost every time. Do you also get 2020 usually, or?
Typically, yes. And one of the deals is, I said before that the game seemed to slow down. Every Zoom start that I missed, I was early on. And it just seemed like just reading the word round 2 or round 3 or whatever, and when that starts to wipe away, halfway when that's gone, that's when you press B. And I would press B too early.
That's the most reliable Zoom start queue there is in the entire game.
But NTSC only.
Yeah.
I
NTSC Grand Prix only.
Right.
I hate that it's not on PAL like that.
Yeah.
First time I played Grand Prix PAL, I was like looking for that visual cue, and I'm like, this is after the second light. This doesn't work.
I think it's because you guys are doing it all wrong and relying on audio cues, whereas, like I just go on sort of memory, really. Like, you know when it feels right. I'm getting it.
Yeah, so the visual cue on PAL is that you hope you're playing against Sami, and he gives a little nod every single time.
Very true.
But then again, if you're playing against Sami, he's just going to kick the shit out of you anyway, so you don't actually want to be playing against him.
Nope.
So it's a conundrum.
But on that note, I advise anyone to rewatch the streams where Carol hit or missed the Zoom start, because his facial expressions are all over the place and well worth the watch. Especially
shall
when
do
you
that.
miss them, Carol. There's some sort of demonic torrent going through your face. It's quite
Oh, I
entertaining.
hate Zoom stars are the worst part of SMK, bar
Yeah.
none.
Well, actually, more so on PAL than NTSC, it seems.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yes, it is awful.
Well, let's get on to the main event. How about?
I was gonna ask if there's any news of any kind first. I always have my Luigi E/O bit, which I'm sort of lukewarm about. But since I realized, because we cut it from the previous episode, Carol, correct?
Yes, we did.
Because I was like super interested in 7-4 because that's the maze level. But there's also another maze level which is 4-4, if I remember.
Yep.
So Mark Jones, Yo, and myself were talking about, okay, so if the learning neural network AI thing passed 4-4, then there's no reason why he wouldn't pass 7-4 in time. Turns out he never did. I say he, that can't be the right connotation for
It.
yeah, it. I guess it's it. Did not do 4-4. It did a warp from 4-2 straight to 5-1. So the maze level never happened, and last I checked today, it had reached 7-2, which is the water level. And as soon as the AI realizes you can jump infinitely, which is kind of what you do in the water levels, those are short, easy, I think. So it's just 7-3 left, and then we're at 7-4, which will be anything but interesting. It's probably going to be very slow, and my bet is it's not going to be beaten. So that's my regular Luigi E/O bit. You're welcome. So Clark, that is actually what I end up watching some days.
Oh, right, okay.
Just a
That's cool.
just a computer program trying to learn SMB1 on its own.
I'm happy to give that a go.
Oh, you
But
haven't
I'd
seen
much
it at
sooner
all?
watch it. Well, no, actually. But I'd much sooner see it when it's all done and someone does a nice handy compilation of every level and it's learning.
Right. So
Yeah.
whenever it beats a level, the level gets uploaded to YouTube like instantly within like 10-15 minutes. So you can see every level beaten up until 7-1.
Well, I'm happy to do that then. If someone links it to me, I'll happily watch it.
All right. Any takers on the bet whether it will pass 7-4 or not?
I think the problem is that the readout is what's going to be causing the problems,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the readout is like your coordinate
Yeah, it's
in
your
a
X
level.
position.
It's your X position, exactly your X coordinate. And in the maze level, the X coordinate is actually not what determines if you pass the level, yes or no. So
No.
the progress in the level is not linear. And that's what's going to be the problem there, I guess. So I'm not happy to take that bet.
No.
I'm like not convinced that it won't beat the level, but I'm certainly not convinced the other way around either.
No, it's gonna be long. It's gonna be weeks before anything happens, even if it does work. But I don't think it's gonna work. But having no faith in AI is probably a mistake, right?
Well, no, because this would not be a fault of the AI, but just a fault of the
Parameters.
programming.
Yeah.
Let's say
Yeah.
that it goes for the X coordinate as the readout.
Yeah,
So.
in a sense, yeah. All right. Any other gaming-related news? Any world records?
Yeah, of course there is. Everyone in this chat right now, minus Lafungo, are now moderators on the Super Black Bass Speedrun.com
This
page.
is relevant, yeah.
Despite there only being 2 runs ever submitted, we now have like 12 or 14 moderators, something like that. Lafungo, this is how you run a page.
Oh man, I was moderator at first, but it was stripped from me.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
I
'cause of
wasn't
Clark.
Damn you, Clark.
Good is what I say.
It was either Clark or David Mall that said, "Take Lafungo out of there. He's a bad mod."
It's
He's a
probably
nasty
both.
moderator, yeah.
Well, there were new world records since last we aired.
There was a world record tie by Chris Wilde on VL1 lap.
No, but I don't think we had the initial anti-star VL1 lap mentioned.
Probably not, because it was set right before CDM.
Yeah, so, well, 2 times world records, same flap, same time. That happened.
Yeah, so I went from world record to third place in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah,
That's nice.
congrats.
By
Well,
100th,
that's
I might add.
Of course. Well. So, how do you feel about the 51 from Chris Wilde? I mean, Anti-Star is just a more optimized version of your time, right? Slightly more optimized.
Anti-Star is hashtag making history.
Sure.
But no, actually, Anti-Star does a little thing at the beginning that I don't do. He does a snow slide to launch into the boost, which
Yeah.
is completely different than from what I do in that
Okay.
lap. But I don't think it matters much. I'm not sure if he wins the 100 there. Probably not. But 9:49 is definitely possible. I already felt that I wanted to get 9:49 when I was grinding the lap, but I got stuck on 52.
And
knowing full well that 49 was possible, but just all the parts coming together is rare on that course, more so than on most other courses even.
Right, and it was the world record at the time, so you were happy, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like after, I don't know, I probably played it for 20 hours or something, and if you don't get a world record, yeah, okay, you're done with it, because it's not exactly my favorite track. It might even be my least favorite track.
Yeah, I hear that. So how do you feel about Christian Wilde's world record tie?
I was kind of surprised that, I guess it shows the monstrous talent that Christian Wilde has, that he's capable of pulling out a lap like that, playing SMK so little this year, as far as I know, at least. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Every time he seems to play that game, he seems to get a world record, doesn't he? He's like, I was just going to play some MC4 or something. Oh, there's a world record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which,
insane.
by the way, actually got a MC4 fast lap world record two years ago at CDM in Strasbourg, of all places. But I think the SMK world record to highlight in this podcast hasn't been mentioned yet. I think it's Eric Olden's CI2 5 lap in
right.
NTSC.
Hell yeah.
Somehow that
Good
eluded
shout.
me. Yeah, well mentioned.
I think it's incredible that he managed to get this, because it's by far his best time. It's like, aside from the fact that it's world record, which is obviously a huge accomplishment,
Well,
I don't think any of his other times are even close to the top 10.
No, he said something to the effect of he fell in love with CI2, so he learned how to run before he learned how to walk.
And not only that, apparently I'm to blame for his addiction.
Well,
It's ridiculous. So,
You're to blame for a lot of things.
well, what's up with this? Come on.
scapegoat.
Todd Rogers of SMK.
That's what it says on the French forum.
I also believe that he claims to be the worst ranked world record holder.
That's probably true.
Oh, yeah.
For us.
And he was about to pass Hanian, who had the Vanilla Lake 2 world record.
Oh.
But he got it.
Actually an interesting question. Like, who has been the worst ranked player who's had a world record? I remember, what's his face, Tyler, when he had Cooper Beach 1, he was pretty low ranked.
He still has it,
still
but
has
he's no longer
KB1.
low ranked.
Oh, right.
But yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it, but Eric is making the claim that he is. Of course, he might not know, like 10 years ago, if there were any even worse ranked players getting world records. Probably not, actually.
Well, if it counts, I mean, Guillaume, Anti-Star, on the non-NBT site, I mean, his Rainbow Road times are just sick. And then all his other times, since he's such an accomplished player using boosts, it's like he just hasn't focused on that. So is that comparable? I don't know.
I don't really think so, because Anti-Star is just low ranked by the virtue of not playing non-MBT. But if he would be up there immediately. And Eric had to go from scratch, and just probably if he tries the other tracks, he will still struggle a lot. He's ranked 20th at the moment, by the way. Which probably doesn't make him the worst world record holder.
I was going to say that's probably not enough for that title.
No, I think Haroon Shakil Sabani
I was going to say Haroon, actually, yeah.
had the VL2 world record back when he was, 40th or something.
Either way, props to Eric.
Props to Eric.
Yeah, of course. I can't believe we didn't lead out with that, but it was the last of the 3, right? No, it wasn't even. It was the middle.
It was
It
the
was
middle one because it
during
happened
CDM.
during CDM.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
It
so
was
he
to make up for the fact that he didn't show up.
right, exactly. So let's use that as a segue, huh?
Smooth.
one of my least worst ones.
Buttery.
All right, so August 14th until August 18th marked this year's CDM, the Super Mario Kart World Championships. I feel like I've said this quite a lot because I said this maybe 20 times a day on stream.
Can I just take a moment to say, before we talk about how everyone, like all the results and whatnot, just how, well, I don't know, the guys who were actually there didn't realise I was only there for one day, I had to leave early. But your work on the stream, Marius, was absolutely brilliant. Superb.
Well, cheers. I felt like it was hard work, to be honest, especially when I didn't have a co-commentator. That's just a job when you're there alone.
I can
But
imagine. But
but
you smashed it, man.
well, I had legends joining me, so that was just a bliss. And I had a couple of left triples too many, so I feel a bit bad listening back to some of that. But, yeah.
No, that's what makes it good. Don't ever shy away from
Well,
your
the match race
drinking.
commentary is should not be watched. Yeah.
It was colorful. I watched some of it back. And I know the bar ran out of left triples
Yeah, they did.
pretty soon into the week.
Which
And,
made the next mode much better.
No.
The Grand Prix commentary was much less Leffe infused. Anyway, I had a great experience with that, and I know what to change on my own part at least. But yeah, there were some issues with the setup, which made it a bit more difficult than it needed to be. But I cannot blame that on Patrick. There's just no way.
No.
So let's just get that shout out done with, or continuously done with. Patrick Wessels did so much work for the CDM. I don't believe that's how it's supposed to be. Even I didn't know he was such an integral part of it.
No, it was worse this year than before. In the sense that he had to split himself 3 ways.
Yeah.
Because the stream setup was much more complicated than it normally is, with the added disadvantage of having to run a stream in an esports arena that is more complicated. Like all the stream was actually physically separated from where the gaming action was taking place, and there was a cable jungle going on and different PCs, and it was all pretty difficult. On top of that, he had to on the day that we started, he still had to print out the time trial sheets, which in hindsight should have happened way before. So the organization, including myself, takes some blame there, I would say, in hindsight. So he was setting up the stream. He had to print out time trial sheets somewhere else because the printer doesn't have the venue doesn't have a printer. And on top of that, he was also, as usual, which is his normal role, in charge of tracking the scores that we get, like the time trial results. Therefore, he was a very, very busy man on the first day, and I felt kind of bad for him.
Yeah, I did too, and I don't always feel bad for Patrick, but when I do, it's real.
Yeah, he was stressed. He looked really stressed. Yeah.
Well, it got better. But
Yeah.
in hindsight, I feel like we should have started one day earlier just with the preparations the way it turned out.
Yeah, that's what we wanted to do, but the esports bar had an event in the evening which prevented us from setting up the stream.
Fortnite.
Because they were using it for a charity event, so that's kind of screwed us over. We did not know that.
Oh, right, okay. But having this experience, it's much easier to get things in order next time, so it's a learning experience, etc.
Because we were actually going to implement in the dead time, let's say, time where no SMK is happening. We were gonna rebroadcast all CDM matches.
Yep.
But for that, we needed a clearly distinct overlay to be made still, so that people that are watching know that it's not actual live footage, but like rebroadcasted footage. And also for that, you need a dedicated stream manager to play the matches, select the matches exactly at the appropriate moments, and not someone who is also running the managing like the results, the commentary, whatnot. So it didn't actually happen in the end, which is why we still had lots of dead time in the I guess it's fair to talk about the results, right? Because that's what the event is ultimately about.
Yeah, just
Yes.
do day one. So time trial then.
Day one.
Oh boy.
Uh,
Well, I'm happy to say at least I did not get silver medal, and actually Lafungo should take the honors here because I'm not even the best time trial one try player in the house anymore.
yeah, what happened there?
This is true. So as I've been needling Carol ever since that day, that fateful day, he is no longer the best player in the Netherlands. I get to keep that title.
Not even my own house.
Not even your own house. Not even the floor we live on.
Oh, cold.
So time trial. Well, I mean, group stage, as viewers of CDM participants will know, is you play through all 20 tracks and then get ranked on your average score throughout. Then you move on to top 16, and well, we'll talk about how we feel about the format afterwards, perhaps. But anyways, the reality of it is that the top 16 players from the group stage play one attempt on each of 2 tracks, and these 2 tracks this year happen to be GV3 or Ghost Valley 3 and Vanilla Lake 2, 2 of the most punishing tracks to fall at that stage of CDM. And
Can I
Ghost Valley.
Can I just
Yeah.
mention there? So Ghost Valley was the first track, right?
Ghost Valley 3 was
Yes.
the first track, and we did not know that Vanilla Lake 2 would be the second track.
Right. So Ghost Valley 3 gets announced. Everyone finds, because you need like a partner.
Yes.
So you find a partner, you find TV, and then it kind of just all happens. And some people, well, we didn't all start at the same time, so there was like a small discrepancy.
One of the things that should be fixed, by the way.
Yeah, that should be fixed, definitely.
Yes.
But there was sort of from complete silence, there was like a gathering roar happening when Sami messed up lap 2 of Ghost Valley 3. That was very strange. Everyone was like, "Oh, did you see Sami?"
Yeah.
I heard he also missed the start boost on Ghost Valley 3.
He got
I
a
don't know if
23-second
He
first
missed
lap and a 33-second second lap, I believe.
I thought it was 38 on
38
his second
even?
lap.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Because Sami and Carl were the ones that were on the 2 streams, the FFSMK and the Esports Game Arena, I think was the other
Yes.
channel.
Yep, that's right.
And I had them both up every single time that you guys were streaming. So
And we both failed the free, quote-unquote, platform jump.
well, I'm pretty sure I wrote that in chat somewhere.
Can I just say, indeed, that Ghost Valley 3 and Vanilla 2 are not only among the most punishing tracks, but they are also the hardest tracks for like top players to make a differential on, because they are non-MBT. And like typically on an MBT heavy track, it's very easy to make a differential compared to a less trained player. So it was very, very difficult to get a top 16 composed of those 2 tracks specifically.
Yeah, and I remember Anna Moon, she was in the Twitch chat with everyone, and she's like, Ghost Valley 3 and Vanilla Lake 2 are the people that are choosing these tracks insane. These are the 2 worst tracks you could ever do for a one try. So I mean, it the sentiment that you guys were probably feeling, like, what, seriously, we're doing these 2 tracks? I mean, it was echoed from people viewing around the world.
But I feel that is also part of the fun, though. I mean, I still completely take responsibility for failing myself. I mean, I should be able to drive those tracks better than I did.
Well,
There was definitely a collective groan in the room when Patrick announced Ghost Valley 3.
Oh, yeah.
And then another one when Vanilla Lake 2 was announced later on.
You know, the competitor in you, KVD, would say that someone that's a little kind of wants their prize handed to them would be like, oh, I would rather race Mario Circuit 1 or Ghost Valley 1 or something like that. But someone that's a top level player would want to go after the toughest tracks, I would feel. And be like, you know, if I'm going to win this thing, I'm going to go through the worst of it. And if I'm not going to win it, well, then I'm just going to F up and someone else more deserving is going to take it.
Yeah, and I think that was Anti-Star's attitude to a T in the final. But we're going to talk about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah.
In a very short moment.
True.
Let me just mention that I'm not sure you were there, Carol, but I spoke with Sami regarding the Ghost Valley 3 and Time Trial as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said, well, I tried, I messed up, but I would do the same every time.
Yeah. No, but can I just mention here that Sami did an absolutely awesome group stage.
Oh, yeah.
Like, pretty much crashless, right? And the first time he crashes is immediately punished with a knockout, so it's kind of harsh.
Yeah, his group stage, if that's... Was that streamed, or...
No, it should probably not, because it was by player page rank. So I think it was Carol and ScouB? Or...
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
probably right.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sami's... well, watch those as well. Those were number 2 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the group stage, yeah.
Yeah, I did my best group stage performance of all time by quite a big margin. Also got a championship record on Bowser Castle 3, for example, even though the fourth one...
championship records for this year.
Yeah, so Chris Wilde got a championship record at DP2. Like, championship record is like the best one try ever driven during an official time trial tournament in CDM history. So Chris Wilde got a DP2 of 127 low, which is a few tenths better than what it was before. And what else was driven?
And you got the BC3.
And I got to be... That's it?
Yep, just those two.
Is that...
At Bowser Castle 3, I was heading for a 132 and I knew it. And then in the final lap, the fourth swamp wall came crashing down. I was like, oh shit.
Right.
And I just squeezed through the wall on the left, which is something that doesn't always work, but I had to go for it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this risk. I'm not going to break and throw it away. I knew it was group stage anyway, so if I was swamped or whatever, I would still qualify regardless. So it's kind of a free risk in that sense. But that's where the glory story ends, though.
But 2 championship records during time trial, is that above, below average?
It's a little bit... I think the average would be 3.
Okay.
But it's just ballpark guess. I don't know. Yeah.
All right.
Obviously, it gets harder as every year progresses.
Sure. Yeah, it would. So moving on from top 16, I don't remember the names. Maybe you do, Carol?
I do. ScouB, Sami, and me were all 3 eliminated. And so was Aaron, actually. He would have been top 8 if not for the fact that he was disqualified.
Right.
Because he wasn't actually following the rules.
But it was harsh, I think. It was a harsh DQ.
Yeah, there was some debate. In the end, he actually acknowledged himself that he was sort of playing with the rules a little bit, at least.
I think he deserved it.
Okay, I haven't heard of this, so please
I think
explain.
the general consensus is that he deserved it, actually. But Sargot, you actually witnessed this, right? So maybe
So he said he played GB3 and he fell down a couple of times and then he just reset and he called it practice. And according to the rules, that's just a non-starter, right? That's it?
Yeah, because you can't practice the track that has been chosen.
Right. And that was basically the start and end of it. But at this time, everyone should be starting GB3, right? Because it should be happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Aaron actually had time to see Sami fall off on stream because the stream is shown inside the venue. So after that, you can just sort of, I'll just do no platform jump, safe, 5-lap, whatever. Well, you wouldn't do that, but you get the point.
So in the end, the decision was kind of harsh, but also deserved. I think is the general sentiment. And he even agreed with it himself after having cooled down a little bit.
Yeah, he did. It took some hours, but he did.
And he got
some hours and a lot of beers.
he got his revenge on match race day the next day, to be fair. So props to him for that. So the players that were remaining after the top 16 onslaught were, of course, Anti-Star, Neo, Jay, Chris Wilde, Connor, Leila and Sophie, our 2 ladies, did really well. And of course, Lafungo here.
Lafungo!
That's right. It was. I think it's the most unusual player composition for a time trial quarterfinal ever.
I definitely agree with that.
And I think it's by far the
Yes.
most unusual one.
You would have gotten
Yes.
your money back quite a few folds. If you
I
somehow.
think
Yeah.
I think there are at least 3 players, including myself, who had never been in a time trial quarterfinal before, and maybe more. I'm not sure if Connor has ever been in a quarterfinal.
Me
for
either.
example. There are only like three staples, I'd say, 3 people who you'd expect to be there, and those were Antistar, Neo, and Chris Wilde. I think even Jay is not a shoo-in for a time trial quarterfinal.
Absolutely not. No.
Right, because there's supposed to be a Sami, a Carol, and a ScouB there at least.
Yes, and
Yeah,
and on
Anti-Star.
normal years you'd also have like an Aaron would usually be there as well.
Anti-Star Aaron, exactly.
Right.
Now, is this legit? Is Connor actually like in the 70s on the player page? I think I read that in the last update that he's like 76th or something like that.
He doesn't play time trial.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
That really shocked me with how he's performed
It doesn't
in the
represent his
past
level.
3 or 4 CDMs. I mean, that's just nuts to me if he's 70th on the players page.
Yeah, so he doesn't play time trial. He just plays multiplayer SMK.
And
You
one
have that
trial,
That's what he
with quite a few
means.
players, don't you? You have that with Drew as well. He's not very high.
Yeah.
Geo, Jay's not particularly high.
Yeah, exactly. I think Lafungo can maybe shed some light on how the quarterfinals went, or maybe we're going into too much detail. But
Just
Yeah,
give us the tracks and the performances.
Yeah, so the next 2 tracks for quarterfinals were Bowser Castle 2 and Ghost Valley 1. So it was all played on Bowser Castle 2. And
Yeah.
I know that myself and I think 2 or 3 other people got clipped by a thwomp at some point in the race on BC2. And that was it. Because once you've lost a few seconds on BC2, there's no coming back on GV1.
Yeah.
unless you do a platform jump,
And even then,
Well,
that's
yes.
that's half a second or
1 second.
or
Yeah,
1
you
second.
would have to do
Then.
3 or 4 platform jumps.
you're not doing
And
that.
on PAL, that's just dirty.
Yeah. So the best platform jump success that has ever been done at CDM official 1 tries is 1 out of 5. No one has ever dared. No one has ever dared to go 2 out of 5 yet.
Is that Pierre? Was it Pierre? I
Yeah,
don't know.
and the Anti-Star did it several times actually.
3 times, I think.
Yeah.
And it was going to do it this year, but I don't know. No, he didn't make it.
No, he had a safe Bowser Castle too, so he didn't need. He would be completely insane if he went for the Ghost Valley
Oh,
one.
yeah, right.
So yeah, top 4 would be then after Bowser Castle 2 and Ghost Valley 1 was Anti-Star, who aced both, Neo, and then the surprise for me personally was Jay being in the top 4 of time trial. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really impressive. And Christian Wild, our German friend and talent. So the semifinals were played on Cooper Beach 1 and Bowser Castle 3. Do you remember what happened, Lafungo? Or
So I know that Christian Wild had an absolutely horrendous Bowser Castle 3. He had a very solid KB1. He drove a 55, which is for KB1 is
yeah, it was
great.
the second best time. He was
Second best time by a big long shot.
over 2 seconds better than Neo and Jay. Yeah.
And then on BC3, just everything that possibly could have gone wrong went wrong.
So he's still playing.
Yeah, exactly. He's still going. He's
You might as well have.
lap 4 at this point.
Right.
So he got a concrete drown or 2, or he ran. The thwomp wall was down, and he just ran into it. He may have got squashed at one point. I don't remember. He ended up with a 206, which is about 30 seconds slower than a good BC3.
Yeah, you're out if you get 206. You would have even been out in the top 16
Yeah.
with that time.
That sounds like something I would run on Bowser Castle 3 on PAL.
It was a train wreck.
I think this was about the time where I started doing commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, Anti-Star was on the esports stream.
Yeah.
So his BC3 was complete banana hammock bonkers bullshit. And I was just what are you doing? Are you trying to make a world record here? But in the end, he gets triple swamped, so they're all down. He tries to sneak by the last remaining one, but it's too late. So he hits the one on the far right first, then the second one, then the third one, and then...
Oh, right, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, this magnificent beast of a run is dead. But, well, it wasn't quite that bad. Because that was...
No, yeah, the
You really
11-second
just saved
leeway
me
in the end.
Yeah, right.
Jay's BC3 also wasn't great.
Yeah.
He ended up with a 147, which is
PB?
Yeah,
a
not what you
couple
want.
crashes or one large crash.
But Bowser Castle 3 is very, very hard to do a one try on, and you are also delivered to the mercy of the gods in some
A
sense.
little bit, yeah.
So then the bronze medal playoff and the grand final are played on one track, which is something that should probably change in the future. It's always been like this though. But yeah, so Ghost Valley 2 is a very interesting one for the third place.
Right, right. There was a different track for the third and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't see that at all, so someone else is going to have to inform me for the first time.
Okay, so the strategy there. So it was Ghost Valley 2. It was Chris Wilde versus Jay. And so the strategy here, Chris is way better than Jay at time trial. There's no discussion there. Both players knew that. Everyone watching knew that. Or at least was informed about time trial. And so Chris the way Chris plays one tries is that he's going for a PR. He's toned it down very slightly since I first saw him at a CDM. But essentially, he drives like at the same rhythm that he would for a PR attempt. And so if he didn't crash, he was going to win, guaranteed. So Jay just drove a nice, safe, clean GV2. And the only thing he could really do was passively hope that Chris would crash, which he didn't.
So Jay tried to beat a one crash 5 lap by Chris.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's the right strat.
Yeah, it is.
And Chris got very, very close to crashing on at least one occasion. There was one specific corner where everyone watching would just held their breath because he was maybe like 2 pixels away from the block.
And Jay succeeded in doing it cleanly. He got a 104, but Chris didn't crash, so alas.
Right.
For Jay at least. And Chris Wilde got his first ever medal at a CDM.
Germany's first ever medal as well.
Indeed.
Yeah, big rats to Chris for that one.
Yep. And then the final, I think Sargat should take this one.
Yeah, so the final, it was also split between 2 streams, but I have rewatched both now. So it was Vanilla Lake 1, and Flora was playing on the French stream, and Anti-Star was playing on the esports stream. Yeah, it's tense. One track, I never actually saw the time trial finals before I realized, because one track is there's just too much at stake.
That's kind of why we kept it though, because it has its magic.
Yeah, in a sense. So I'm like, okay, so this is it, and it's fucking Vanilla Lake 1. What a tragedy. So to myself, I'm silently thinking, okay, so what's going to be? Is there some sort of safe strat we're going to see here, or is there something I don't know which makes you drive safe 55s? And then Anti-Star right from the start is just doing everything in his power to beat the world record, because he was playing this track like a week before CDM, which I think was a huge boost to his confidence, probably. I would think. So
You would be right.
Yeah, well, he was going to do the same thing anyway, I guess. So
Yeah, but he might not have succeeded.
Right, we're right. So he was just going for it, going absolutely crazy and nailing everything. So he was sort of close to messing up the last corner once, but no, nothing. And he just keeps on going, and for each lap I'm more amazed, like, what on earth is this? This cannot go on for 5 laps, there's no way. In the end, I think he misses one snow slide or one NBT doesn't fire in the last lap, so he loses half a second. So it's a 5290 or something.
81, yeah, crazy.
Yeah, and that is just, I don't know. I didn't see Flora stream, so didn't know at that point what time he got. But by looking at Antistar's reaction,
It was pretty obvious. Yeah.
kind of deducted
reaction,
that
though.
Flora was behind. So sadly, that's
Stream the
not.
place down then.
It doesn't show up on any stream, but you can definitely hear the elation in his voice when that.
Did you get to see that reaction, Clark?
Yeah, I saw that, mate. I was right in front of him when he did it. I had to put my hands over my ears.
Yeah,
That one was a bit strange as a spectator at the venue to watch, because unfortunately we had stream delay for the time trial final specifically, because the monitors in the venue were set up in such a way where so we could watch both streams simultaneously, but that also meant we had a 15-20 second delay. So as VL1 is in the middle, like this is the middle of VL1 on the screens that we're watching, all of a sudden Antistar just jumps out of his chair and just starts raging. And it's just like a primal scream.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're like, well, guess Antistar just won, but we don't get to see it. So yeah, it was strange.
I gotta give it up to Flora as well, though. He hit 2 ice blocks in the first lap, which I think he meant to hit 1.
Mm-hmm.
But he hit 2, which gives you that sort of deep slowdown instead of the hit a wall, keep driving sort of thing. So that one cost him second and a half, maybe more. But the rest of his laps were crazy good.
Yeah, it lost him like 2.5 seconds,
Two
I
and a
guess.
half even, okay.
Yeah. So he still got 54.60, and he would have gotten around Guillaume's time without that. But
he was on the
that's
same
VL1.
pace, but he had the crash in the first lap, and that
Like
was it.
typically, if I practice at home for VL1, and that's of course always easier than during the event. But
Sure.
even then, I usually have that one extra crash which makes you go 54, 55, and getting the 52, I can do it too, but it's much rarer. It's like 1 in 10 or whatever. So.
Right.
So Florent was sort of what was expected, and Antistar completely rose to the occasion. Did the second best time ever done at a CDM, and if only he was like a tenth or so faster, he would have gotten the all-time record in the final, which is completely bonkers.
Because most of the time trial records are probably done during group stage, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And this almost happened during the final.
In fact, all of them are done during group stage.
Oh, right. No exception?
No exception.
Whoa.
I was going to say that the closest I could think of to a championship record happening in like that late would be Gatchan VL2 5 lap in third place match. And looking at the site, so in the top 8 times, 2 of them are by Gatchan in third place matches in 2012 and in 2008.
So yeah, if you want a bronze medal, don't play against Gatchan on VL2. Is that the moral of the story?
Yep.
Right. Well,
So enough about TT, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
If I can just one last comment on time trial. I want to correct myself from earlier when I was talking about people who had or hadn't made a quarterfinal before. So I checked briefly, and so half of the people who are in this year's time trial quarterfinal had never made a time trial quarterfinal before. It was Layla, Sophie, and myself, and then also Chris Wilde.
Oh, so Connor didn't make it, but Chris didn't.
Connor and Jay had both been in a quarterfinal.
Oh, wow, that's surprising.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that proves that Chris does go for PRs when he won tries.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Congrats to the gold winner Antistar. He got what he came for. He actually prophesized that gold medal on this podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So he definitely got what he came to CDM for. That was all he wanted, to make some spectacle for the fans or something, what he said.
I think a lot of people prophesized me for silver, but that didn't happen, thankfully.
No. Thankfully.
I had a different prophecy, which did come true, though.
Which is that you would outrank me.
Exactly.
Right. All right. Let's move on to match race.
Moving on.
Excuse me, Carol. I think you're forgetting something. The schedule
we're
was
not.
changed this year. Day 2 was not match race.
Oh right, yeah, that's all in my head. It's battle mode. It's true.
Battle mode.
Yeah. So who won battle mode? Was it ScouB?
It's
Yep.
indeed ScouB.
Okay, that's that. Move on, Matt.
Excellent.
I mean, it's a bit harder to talk about battle mode because it's all about the individual matchup and how it goes back and forth. It's not like a race, so it's very hard to talk about that one red shell or the star French hat-trick crazy driving. There were some excellent games in battle mode for sure, but in the end, ScouB, who had more trouble earlier on, I think, it was just too solid in the final in the end.
Yeah, so the group stage, ScouB also did really, really well, but Sami
Again,
didn't even draw. He won everything.
Wow.
He only
So,
dropped 6 rounds.
Yeah, he only dropped
So-
6 rounds in the entire group stage, which consists of 14 matches, 4 maps each.
yeah.
So and there are some
Was he?
killers
Oh
in
yeah.
battle mode, and also there are random greens and whatnot. So I mean, come on.
Was Sami playing his usual sort of no risk, really boring?
No, he was
Oh.
not. He's
wow.
moved beyond that since.
Yeah, he kind of stopped that. Well, not stopped, but much less.
He's still very good at defensively positioning himself, so you never get a shot in. But in the meantime, he still puts pressure on you, even when he doesn't have a star. Like, he usually would only attack you when he had a star red combo going.
Yeah.
And it was very tedious to play against him, but that's no longer true. He does engage, but you still don't get the fire back because he's just so good at positioning himself. But yeah, Neo broke through the secret combination somehow. So he defeated Sami in the semifinals 9-5. Which surprised me, I think, because of last year Sami went to the wire with both Geo and ScouB in the semifinal and the bronze medal playoff. Both ended in 9-8, and a random may have been involved in both of those, if I remember correctly,
I think it
in
was.
the final match. So I was expecting Sami to, again, at least, get close to these guys. 9-5 is kind of close, but not as close as last year. Especially after that acing he did in group stage. I was expecting him maybe to make the final, but it didn't happen.
He's never made the final, has he?
Nope. He's never even won a medal in battle mode. He's gotten fourth place like a couple of times now.
That was his fourth place.
Exactly. It was his fourth place, and he's never won it's the only mode where he has not won a medal. He's won multiple medals in all the other modes.
It's only ever been quarterfinalist or fourth.
Yeah.
There's an interesting statistic there too. Is that this year's time trial was the first time since Sami has started going to the championships that he hasn't made a quarterfinal.
That's insane, isn't it?
That's sick.
In any mode.
Wow.
Mode.
It speaks
That
of his
is something.
consistency.
And he's been going every year since 2008 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Consistency monster.
He always has been.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a couple
So-
other things to highlight from battle mode before we move on.
Go on.
First of all, is that after a slow start, I managed to get my first good result of the day by going up 2-0 against Carol, and then eventually getting a draw. So felt the need to point that one out.
Should have stopped the story a bit earlier, but that's fine.
Yeah, well, there you go. I was up 2-0 against Carol. That's more points, more rounds that I won in that one group stage match than I usually do in a 1st to 10 at home. the standard battle mode score back home at the House of Gaming is 10-1.
And I usually get plethoras of red shells.
Like
every
10 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 red shell streaks are not uncommon, and out of 10 items, I usually pick up at least 4 or 5. So.
Other things worth highlighting, I think, also are 2 of the Q2 matches. Those are the second round of qualifying. So there was a match that was Anti-Star against Martin. And so the interesting thing here, so Anti-Star finished 13th in group stage. So he was the highest ranked player in the group stage who had to play a barrage match to get into top 16. And had he lost that match, he would have gone from winning time trial to the next day not making top 16, which hasn't happened at a CDM, I think, ever. It's happened at like a CDF, like in the very early years of the championship, but not since 09.
Lafungo with the knowledge.
And also that was also very interesting that match was very close to going in Martin's favor, because Antistar I was watching that one. Antistar very quickly went up 3-0, and then Martin just like he was completely absent from the match in the first 3 rounds, and then something clicked and he took 3 rounds back. So it was 3-3, and then ultimately Antistar won the decider. But it was really interesting to watch.
Yeah, Antistar was a big favorite for that one because he has been in the top 16 of battle mode since 2007 non-stop.
So actually, I think to add to that stat you were just saying about from going from winning time trial to nearly not making the top 16, surely that's the other way round. If you look at Drew, now battle mode was on the second day because he never gets anywhere near the top 16.
That's true.
Yeah, but the statistic was, you gotta make up statistics however you can. But the statistic was winning the gold in a mode one day and the next day failing to qualify.
Right, yeah.
Because just the crazy descent.
And Drew actually got a bronze medal, so he was back on the medal board at least this year, the battle mode specialist extraordinaire.
So the other Q2 match I wanted to highlight was Florian Cholet versus Matt Ballard. So Cholet was the 24th in group stage, so he was the very last person to make the barrages, and he ended up winning his first match against the 17th player in group stage, so Didier Bigot, the French players, other French dude.
Bigots. I believe it's pronounced bigots.
Bigot. And then had to play the 16th player in group stage to make it to top 16, and that was Matt Ballard. And they had another 4-3 match that went in Cholet's direction. So I think he becomes the first player to be 24th in group stage, but still make it to top 16.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And then also, had Matt won that match, there would have been 4 Americans in the top 16 of battle mode.
Wow. Kyle as well, right? Kyle,
as it was, there were 3 people who made it directly without having to play a barrage match, and those were obviously Drew, and then Kyle, who was I think he was 9th in group stage, and then myself at 10th.
Kyle, the cartel champion in battle mode.
Yep.
Impressive.
Exactly.
Didn't know he was that good to be
No.
9th.
Yeah,
he was
did
really
really
good.
well.
Yeah.
So time for match race, yeah.
I think the medals, right? Just want to mention the medals.
Yeah, so that was ScouB got the gold. Nobody was too surprised, I guess. Just super solid, but also in the final, after it was 5-4, I think, in ScouB's favor. After that, ScouB just won 5-1 the next 6 matches.
Yeah, so the final result is 11-4. It's quite a big differential there. I should also note that in battle mode there's the by now infamous malediction in French, so it's actually the curse in English.
Yeah.
That if you win battle mode one year, you will never win it the other year. It's been going since the beginning that there's never a back-to-back battle mode winner, and this year is no exception because Florent was last year's winner.
That's the cool thing. I like that. I hope that carries on.
But he was playing super well in battle mode, though. It's just that in the final, it just didn't come up Florent. ScouB was, after the 5-4 mark, ScouB was just getting crazy items, and Florent was never not under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So the score got kind of ugly in the end, but yeah.
Yeah, battle mode can be like that. It can get lopsided.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
ScouB with the gold, Florent with the silver again.
Yeah.
And then Drew with the bronze.
Exactly. So Drew went to the wire with ScouB a little bit, like he was the closest to ScouB in the knockout stage at least, 9-7 defeat. And then he made short work of Sami, 9-6. The score seems to be pretty close, but I never had the idea that Sami would win that match. When I was watching it, at least.
Right.
I may be wrong, but yeah.
Cool.
Hey everyone, Joe here. So the boys have an awful lot more to talk about. So we're going to split this episode up into 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. So that's going to wrap it up for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up shortly. Thank you so much.